You ever have one of those days where everything seems to happen at once? Well, we're going to talk about a day just like that, but on a cosmic scale. We're zeroing in on one single date, November 5th. And trust me, it's a day where the sky, the sea, and a bit of human history all crash together in this really wild way. So, what in the world do the year's biggest moon, a crazy meteor shower, serious flood warnings, and a political plot from 400 years ago all have in common? Yep, you guessed it, November 5th. I know, it sounds random, right? But each of these is a cool story on its own. When they all happen at the same time, though, you get this incredible moment where the universe and our own culture are just perfectly, visibly in sync. So let's dive in and see how this all connects. All right, first up, let's talk about the main event in the sky, the Beaver Supermoon. And listen, this isn't just any old full moon. We're talking about the biggest and brightest one of the entire year. And it kind of sets the stage for everything else we're about to get into. So to really get what's going on, we gotta talk a little science. The moon's path around the Earth isn't a perfect circle, right? It's more of an oval, an ellipse. And that means sometimes it's closer to us and sometimes it's farther away. Well, when it hits that closest point, which scientists call perigee, and it also happens to be a full moon, that's what we call a supermoon. And the difference is actually pretty big. On November 5th, the moon is more than 30,000 miles closer to us than it was at its most distant point, which is called apogee. What that means for us down here is that it looks up to 14% bigger and a whopping 30% brighter in the sky. It really makes a difference. For centuries, different cultures have given names to the full moons to keep track of the seasons. November's full moon is probably most famous for being called the Beaver Moon, and that name comes from the time of year when beavers are working overtime, building their dams for the winter. You'll also hear other names like the Frost Moon or the Freezing Moon. They all basically point to the same thing: winter is coming. Of course, we gotta keep things in perspective here. I love this quote from astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. He puts it this way: if you turned a 14-inch pizza into a 15-inch pizza, would you then call it a super pizza? It's a funny way of saying that, yeah, the difference is real, but it can be kind of subtle if you're just looking up with your own eyes. Still, hey, it's the perfect excuse to get outside and stare at the moon, right? But wait, there's more. The supermoon isn't the only show in the night sky. While it's stealing most of the spotlight, there's another celestial performance happening at the exact same time, the southern Taurid meteor shower. Now, the Taurids are famous, but not for having a ton of meteors. No, their claim to fame is the quality of the meteors. This shower is known for producing these incredibly bright, long-lasting meteors called fireballs. They're just spectacular. And they happen because slightly bigger, pebble-sized pieces of space debris hit our atmosphere and just burn up in this really dramatic way. And this year is extra special. It's what astronomers are calling a swarm year. Now, what that means is that Earth's orbit is taking us through a really dense patch of debris left behind by comet Encke. So our chances of seeing those incredible fireballs light up the night, they go way, way up. Okay, so this sets up a kind of cosmic showdown, right? On one side, you've got a meteor shower famous for its brilliant fireballs. And on the other, you have the brightest moon of the whole year, which can totally wash out the sky and make it hard to see anything but the brightest meteors. It's like a battle of natural light playing out right above our heads. So that's supermoon. It's not just putting on a light show for us. It's getting so close has a very real and actually pretty powerful effect right here on Earth. And I'm talking about our oceans. Yeah, it all comes down to some pretty basic physics. Gravity gets weaker with distance. So when the moon swings by at perigee, its closest point, its gravitational pull on us is at its absolute strongest. And this powerful tug on our oceans creates these exceptionally high tides that we often call king tides. And look, this difference is not small. A king tide can be up to 2 feet higher than a normal high tide. I mean, that's enough to cause some serious coastal flooding in low-lying areas. It's a pretty stark reminder of the very real power the moon has over our planet. So for anyone living in a coastal area, this cosmic event has some very real-world consequences. Preparing for king tides means taking some really crucial steps, like making sure storm drains are clear, maybe having some sandbags ready to go, and just staying on top of local weather alerts. It's a perfect example of where astronomy and public safety totally intersect. Okay, so we've got the moon, we've got meteors, and we've got the tides. But now we're going to pivot from the cosmic to the cultural, because on this exact same date,
A 400-year-old tradition adds a whole other layer of fire to the night. Right. Across Great Britain, November 5th is a huge deal. It's known as Guy Fawkes Night, or sometimes Bonfire Night, and it's a tradition all about fire and fireworks that has absolutely nothing to do with the stars, but everything to do with a failed political conspiracy from centuries ago.
So the whole thing kicked off way back in 1605 with the Gunpowder Plot. It was this failed attempt to assassinate the Protestant King James I. The plot's failure was celebrated immediately with bonfires, and over hundreds of years, what started as this really political observance has morphed into the huge social celebration it is today, with massive public bonfires and incredible firework displays. You've probably heard the famous rhyme, "Remember, remember the 5th of November, gunpowder, treason, and plot." It perfectly captures the origin of the day. For centuries, kids have recited it, making sure that the story of the Gunpowder Plot stays woven into the country's cultural fabric, even as the celebration itself has totally changed. So let's recap. We have a supermoon, a meteor shower, king tides, and a historic commemoration. Let's pull all these threads together now and see what this amazing coincidence actually looks like when it all happens at once. So on this one single night, you get this incredible convergence. Up in the heavens, the closest moon of the year is going head-to-head with fireballs from ancient comet dust. Down here on Earth, that very same moon is pulling our oceans to their absolute peak. And then right on the ground, people are continuing a 400-year-old tradition of lighting bonfires. It's just a lot happening at once. You know, maybe the most beautiful part of this whole convergence is the fire. You've got two totally different kinds of fire lighting up the same night sky. You have the natural fire of meteors, born from cosmic dust millions of miles away, and at the same time, the human fire of fireworks, born from a piece of political history. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. And really, what this all comes down to is a beautiful, completely accidental alignment. There's nothing mystical about it, it wasn't planned, it's just a coincidence of orbital mechanics and the human calendar. But for one night, the hard science of the cosmos and the stories we tell ourselves, they visibly line up. And I think that's the real takeaway here. The world is just full of these hidden connections, you know? A high tide isn't just water, it's the pull of the moon. A fireworks show isn't just a party, it's a link to history. It's really a reminder to always look for that bigger picture. I mean, our lives are already paced by the daily spin of the Earth and its yearly trip around the sun, but this whole thing makes you wonder, right? As we look up at a sky filled with both natural light and man-made light, what other cosmic cycles might be shaping our lives, our traditions, in ways we haven't even realized yet?